Hey everyone, Dan Vuksanovich here for Why I Suck at Guitar. Today, we're going to talk about the fretting hand, specifically exerting minimum effort. So, what is exerting minimum effort exactly, and why it is important? And I'll answer that by asking you a question first. So, did you ever notice that your favorite players seem to play with ease, while when you play, it seems like your fingers are tied into pretzels or you get the claw and you're squeezing the neck so hard that you're leaving dents in it? This is because great players have learned to exert the minimum effort needed to execute what they want to play, and the rest of us haven't. So today, we're going to look at two ways to reduce the amount of effort that it takes to play notes on the neck. The first is presenting your fingers and hand to the fretboard, for lack of a better term, whether that's per passage, per shape, or per chord. Now, your fingers like to bend and extend in a straight line. But when I see a lot of players, especially new ones, the presence of the guitar seems to get in the way of this basic understanding of how our bodies like to move. And panic sets in, and then we get the claw and we get pretzel fingers and we get absurd amounts of tension, and then it's not as much fun to play the guitar as it should be. Now remember, the guitar is static. It doesn't change to accommodate us. So we have to learn how to put ourselves in the best position to play accurately and without excess tension. Now, second, and this is going to seem stupid and potentially rudimentary, but I'm rolling with it anyway. Do you know how hard you really have to press to fret a note? Have you ever explored this in your practice sessions, particularly with passages that are difficult for you? If you haven't, you really should. So let's take a look at these two topics on the guitar neck. All right, so on the guitar neck, first let's talk about how we present our hand to the neck. Now remember, fingers like to bend and extend like this. They are not as happy reaching things by stretching. And that's not to say that you'll never have to stretch, but I can guarantee you that you are putting yourselves in situations where you're reaching like this when you could just change your angle to the neck and reach long ways like this. And this will change for different strings, right? So if I want to fret these four notes right here, actually I'll move up to A minor since that's the key that we all love so much. If I come straight on, and let's say I'm a rule follower and I have a guitar teacher who insists that my knuckles always be parallel to the guitar neck, this is actually going to be harder for me to play on the high E string than if I just rotate at the elbow. All I'm doing is rotating like you're turning a doorknob. I'm rotating outward, and that allows me to reach long ways with my fingers instead of having to spread my fingers to get into the spots where these frets are. Now, also notice that as I move down to lower strings, the ability that I have to rotate changes, especially for me, because my pinky is significantly shorter than the rest of my fingers. Your mileage may vary, but when I get really low on the lower strings, I actually have to rotate the other way. Otherwise, my pinky can't reach. So, depending on which string you're on, and depending where you are on the fretboard, we'll cover that in a minute, you can present your hand to the neck in a way that makes it as easy as possible to drop your fingers onto the frets by reaching long ways instead of trying to reach like this. This is a ton of tension. This is easy. So put yourself in a position where whatever you want to do is as easy as possible for your fingers. Now, stretches also work better, and maybe you figured this out already from what I just said, but stretches also work better when you can extend long ways versus trying to spread your fingers out sideways. So let's say I want to play this kind of stretchy passage here where I've actually got 4 notes on the same string. If I tried to approach the fretboard this way, straight on, there's no way I can do this, especially with my second and third fingers. I don't know about you, but my second and third fingers do not like spreading out laterally. But if I rotate at my elbow just a little bit, it's pretty easy for me to actually take my third finger and reach out and get a stretch that way. Now, obviously this works better on the higher strings than it does on the lower ones, but playing the guitar is a series of compromises. You're almost never going to be in a situation where you're in the perfect position for every single finger, and you'll have to find that compromise that works for all of your fingers well enough to play what you want to play at the speed that you need to play it. Now, let's also talk about different spots on the neck. If I'm up here, let me swing around so you can get a better look. If I'm up here, we also run into which fingers do I use, right? So let's go back to that idea of being a rule follower. There are schools of thought, and the classical guitar community is one of these, where there's almost an ironclad rule where it's 1 finger per fret, no matter where you are on the neck. And I'm here to tell you, I'm gonna push the BS buzzer on that. When you make music, you need to do whatever it takes to make that music as good as it can possibly be, whatever finger you're using. So if when you're playing this is easier for you than this, then do that. Now, I am not suggesting that you shouldn't work on your pinky finger. Or what I am suggesting is that there's a difference between performing music and going into the woodshed and practicing. Practicing your pinky finger and getting more independent with it, making it stronger, that's good. But if you're not there yet and you need to go out and you have a gig and you need to play a song and you're better at it this way, then do that, because that's what you need to do to play that song well that night. Now, the other topic or subtopic here is when you're up at the smaller frets, and I have really long fingers, so when I get up on the smaller frets, it's actually harder for me to fit all of my fingers kind of into this little space. If I quote unquote break the rules, and you'll see a lot of, especially rock players, metal players, when they solo, and especially when they get up here at the higher frets, you will see them sometimes abandon their pinky finger because it's easier to reach with these longer fingers, even in 1-2, what would be a 1-2-4 situation versus a 1-3-4 situation. If you put your fingers in a position to bend and extend straight, it becomes really not that hard to do 3-note per string patterns with your first, second, and third fingers. So to wrap this first piece of this up, so presenting your hand to the fretboard, trying to always is a terrible word, in as many cases as possible, put your hand in a position or your fingers in a position to bend and extend the way that they're built to bend and extend, versus some kind of weird, kind of spready thing like this. Do that. Put yourself in the best position to make it easy, because then you'll have more room in your brain to think about music. And that's what we really want to get to. That the place we're reaching for, we'll never get there, but we're reaching for is that in all cases, we don't even think about technique because it's so locked down that the only thing we have to think about is the music that we want to play. All right, the second piece is not pressing too hard. And this one is, this is a much shorter subtopic, but so I'm playing this note, I'm not pressing down at all. And I can take this and how hard do I need to, there. Now, in this situation where I'm only pressing down as hard as I need to play this note, notice I can move my other fingers. So if I am playing a line or I'm playing a chord, I'm in a pretty good position to do what I want to do with the rest of my hand. Now, you're going to need to get comfortable with this around the fretboard with different fingers. I can do it with my pinky. Now, I guarantee you, if you do this in a passage that's hard for you, it's not going to be as hard for you when you get done breaking it down like this than it was when you started. Because when we think things are hard, or when we're trying to learn movements that we really haven't practiced yet, or playing something that's too fast for the skill set that we currently have, we immediately, there's like this panic tension that sets in, and we have to counteract that by slowing way, way down and figuring out, what tension do I need and what tension do I not need? And we're going to go deeper into this throughout the rest of the fretting hand videos. But the first step is don't exert too much when you're playing a single note. And if you can do that, then you've got the basics for getting to some of the next steps that we'll go through, especially things like balance transfer between your fingers. That'll actually be the next video. So take that and work on that in your practice sessions, and we'll come back for the next video in a few days. Thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw here today, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, let's all suck a little bit less at guitar each day.